Hello. Well, in the year 1054, Leo, he was the Pope and he was a German. And he found he should really make an end to those churches in the south of Italy that, were thinking that Jesus was not a person of flesh and blood. That was so important to Leo that he was really disgusted by those priests in his own Italy who preached it a different way. And they did so because they belonged to the Church of Constantinople, which is today Istanbul. So they were from the Eastern Roman Empire. They were speaking Greek, and because he insisted they should practice the way of Rome, the priests, and they didn't do it, and they were excommunicated, and all kind of trouble. Leo caused it. He was a German, and then, but even in 1099, Godfrid, from north of France and Belgium, he was the first king in Jerusalem because he conquered it from Islam, and he went on a crusade. But he didn't want to wear a crown of gold as a king in the territory where Jesus had been wearing a crown of thorns. So, but yeah, that was the Crusades. And then, of course, around 1250, in a region near Antwerp in Flanders, that somebody made a story about the fox. And the fox, he said, the story is that there is a fox and there is a kingdom of a lion, noble, king noble. And the king has to have a trial for the fox, Reinhard, the fox, because he committed so many sins. And each time the king sends an animal to capture the fox, the animal fails to capture the fox because the fox uses the sins and the weak points of the animal to escape. For instance, when a bear comes to capture the fox, and he tells the bear about a tree where there is so much honey, and so the bear wants the honey and gets stuck with his mouth in the tree, and that's how the fox escapes. And then finally, after a long story and so many animals, the fox is brought to the court of the king noble, and all the animals sit there waiting for the trial. And so the trial fails because the fox tells the wife of the king that he knows about a treasure of very precious stones and gold, and if they let him free, they can have the treasure. And so the wife of the king noble, the lion, insists that Reinhard the fox is liberated. And for the treasure they are still searching. But he used the weakness of wanting the treasure to make a promise, which and then of course that he could escape, but he used the weakness. So those and of course the fox was accused of many wrongdoings, but he said, the people who trial me, who capture me, they have the same sins. So and that's a beautiful story. In 1258, Genghis, he destroys Baghdad, the city of wisdom for the Muslims. Genghis Khan, of course. Then in 1274, Thomas of Aquino, he proved the existence of God. And he used the writings of Aristotle, and he said, well, something had to be there first, because things have a cause, have an origin. There is something which moves, and then something else moves. So, but there is something which was there first, and so that's why God exists. So things try for a certain aim, exactly like Aristotle said, and that is why there is a God, because things tend towards a certain aim. So in regarding psychology, he thinks that every human has a soul which is not material. It has no body, it's a soul, and it's immortal. Yeah, and then of course you stay forever in heaven with your soul. And so what is interesting about Thomas is that it is impossible to be a good person without a good balance to the general well-being. The more a virtue is tended towards general well-being, the higher the virtue is. So that's really against individualism, but on the other hand, it's about a balanced relationship. So if you are a liar, a crook, especially if you screw people, you will end up in the deepest bottom of hell. And the best forum to be governed is not democracy, where we respect everybody's opinion and everybody is equal. No, the best form for a state, according to Thomas of Aquino, is of course the kingdom. But the king should not think he's above the Pope. The best person to guide us morally is the Pope. So that's why a king is under the Pope. Yeah, of course he was a theologian. And there is a fundamental necessity of authority by the society over the individual. It seems he has written 7 million words, and he became famous for his words about the proof of the existence of God. So then, of course, in 1320, we have Dante, who describes how he sees all the floors in hell, first floor, second floor, third floor, seventh floor, all the floors in the hell, and who's there. So he completely describes it. And then in 1345, we have the Black Death. Everybody is dead in Europe. 1348, the Sultan constructs a castle, which today we know as the Alhambra in Andalusia. And then in 1453, Constantinople, which was just a tiny empire, it didn't occupy Turkey anymore. That was already in possession of the Muslims. So it was just the city of Istanbul, but it also fell because a Muslim sultan sacked it, and the Pope didn't help those Orthodox Christians. And then 1469, we have Lorenzo de' Medici. And so he marries a Spanish noblewoman, Orsini, and famous are eggs Orsini. So you take the white of the egg and the yellow of the egg and separate it. And you make foam with the white of the egg, and you butter a bowl and put the foam in the bowl, which can go in the oven, and then you put the yellow of the egg in the foam in holes, 3, 4, 5, 6 holes, and you put the yellow, and then you put a little bit like Parmesan cheese on top, and you put that in the oven, and so the white foam of the egg will give some soufflé, and the yellow of the egg will be perfect. It will be warm, but a little bit liquid, but not very liquid, but not very solid too. And then you have that Parmesan cheese, and that gives some extra flavor to the dish. And that's called eggs Orsini, and she was a Spanish noblewoman, and she married Lorenzo de' Medici in 1469. And in 1480, Botticelli, he paints The Birth of Venus. And in 1485, Hieronymus Bosch, he paints The Garden of Lust with sins and virtues and all this world. And then in 1489, we have Savonarola. It's a priest in Florence who is so disgusted by all the riches of the church, the beautiful, expensive paintings, the buildings, the marble. And so he wants a more humble, cheaper Christian religion. Of course, with all the artists coming from Constantinople, and in Italy they wanted a more intellectual life. They had more standing. They want to make it more chic. And the locals didn't like that entirely. But it happened, and they got him killed in the end. Savonarola, he was totally destroyed. They hanging him because he was possessed by the devil. And then in 1490, in the United Arab Emirates, there was a man who was a poet, also learned about navigation technique on the high sea, where you see no land. And so they navigated at that time, the Muslims, to Indonesia, Malaysia. And so, they needed navigation. And then in 1501, you have the birth of Iran. And so, because Ismail, he became king of Iran, and he wanted the country to be a Shiite country. So only Shiites, nobody else. And his reign stayed a long time, but 85% of Muslims are Sunnite, and they are more moderate. They are not ruled by ayatollahs, but in Iran they have ayatollahs, and they founded that system in 1501.